to invite Dr. Ankur Singh, who is the moderator for this CME. He is assistant professor in our department, and he has been trained for vitreoretinal surgery at Advanced Center PGI Chandigarh. He is looking after the retina and the uvea services in the department. He will be talking on the management of diabetic retinopathy.
Thank you, ma'am. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm going to talk about diabetic retinopathy. And I cannot talk about diabetic retinopathy management without defining it, as has been already done by Dr. Jolie, ma'am. Diabetic retinopathy is an ocular manifestation of end organ damage in diabetes mellitus. Diabetic retinopathy has classically been considered as a microvascular disease of the retina. However, the growing evidence has suggested that retinal neurodegeneration is an early event in pathogenesis of the diabetic retinopathy. And to that extent, the neurodegeneration happens before the microvascular complication happen in diabetic retinopathy. So what are the investigations that are needed to diagnose a patient with diabetic retinopathy? Number one would be fundus photography. Another would be ultra-wide field fundus photography, an invasive test known as fundus fluorescein angiography, and non-invasive test which is known as optical coherence tomography to assess the structural architecture of the retina. And then newer but now a bit old, an imaging modality which is optical coherence tomography angiography. So why do we need OCT? Number one, it is non-invasive. Number two, it can assess the progression of the diabetic retinopathy with the help of the quantifiable parameters. So Rakausis et al. In their study has presented that FD300, what is foveal density 300? That is foveal density from the center of the fovea, 300 microns around. It can predict, the signs of diabetic retinopathy even before the clinical signs kick in. There is something known as neurodegeneration, and we also understand before the clinical picture of diabetic retinopathy develops, there is neurodegeneration happening, which involves the microglial cells, and microglial cells release inflammatory mediators. These inflammatory mediators leads to inflammatory insult. The inflammatory insult causes inflammatory state in the retina that causes the closure of the retinal vessels. These closure of the retinal vessels lead to formation of the CNP areas. These CNP areas are the reason for the release of VEGF, and that VEGF is going to cause the new vessels and the aftermath of the diabetic retinopathy, that is proliferative diabetic retinopathy. So neurodegeneration is the new area of interest. This is where we want to stop the diabetes, and later is already existing evidence about it, that how do we treat a patient who has an apparent diabetic, or that is by doing the systemic management, and the patient who has an aftermath of diabetic retinopathy, that is PDR, by doing surgical and medical management. So what are the complications of PDR? So one is vitreous hemorrhage, total retinal detachment, combined traction, rhegmatogenous retinal detachment, and premacular hemorrhage. So by this time we know that CNP areas are notorious. They are the cause of the release of VEGF, so we need to photocoagulate them. So the conventional teaching has been, to do photocoagulation outside the arcade till equator. But as we do photocoagulation, we all know there is loss of that part of the retina. There is a loss of visual field. There is decrease in contrast sensitivity. So how do we move over that? So Nikka et al. In their study published that when we do an extended targeted PRP. What does extended targeted PRP means? That we gonna target only the areas in the mid periphery of the retina which have the CNP areas, which can be seen like in this picture, in the left picture in the left, with the help of those closed spaces. Those closed spaces are the CNP areas. So Nikka et al. Targeted those CNP areas, and at the same time they did an PRP outside the mid periphery, extended till the ora serrata, and they found that there was a reduction in the progression of proliferative diabetic retinopathy, and it was less potential destructive. But how does it work? We all know that diabetic is a continuum process and does not stop, even if we control the metabolic status of the patient, give anti-VEGFs, whatever we do, but then it still progresses. So how do we do that? So that made us to look for an alternative. An alternative was in the form of anti-VEGF, and Protocol X initially gave us this alternative in the form that we can give anti-VEGF one after the another monthly injections, and we can get rid of the PRP per se. But then there is a problem with that. The problem is cost factors. Although in an institute like ours, where the injections are given for free, but for the private person, this injection is going to cost huge. At the same time, there has to be strict compliance to the patient, and at the same time, number of injections means more chances of endophthalmitis. What does evidence now states that 5 years later, when the study reveals its final results, they told us that the visual field loss was equivalent. So if the visual field loss was equivalent in after 5 years, why do we need to put the patient under such a cost impaction at the same time giving so many injections? So what is the way out? The way out is combining the both. Combine PRP with anti-VEGF. Use anti-VEGF judicially where needed. And yes, PRP is still way out. It's just that when we use anti-VEGF, what it happens is that it takes over the tide of cystoid macular edema that will develop during the course of the disease. But yes, the only definitive treatment as now exists is PRP. So we also know that even after giving anti-VEGFs and PRP, 40% of the patient will still develop vitreous hemorrhage. And there are no established guidelines for vitreous hemorrhage. Standard teaching says wait for 3 months, do a PPV, a PRP, but then waiting for 3 months is not good, because if you wait for 3 months, still there would be aggressive fibrovascular proliferation in type 1 diabetes. So by the time the patient comes back to you, he already has a TRD. So what I follow personally is, then a patient with PDI vitreous hemorrhage, I do an ultrasonography, and if there is traction on the ultrasonography, I straight away go to anti-VEGF, pre-operative anti-VEGF with PPV with endolaser. And if the patient does not have a traction component, I give anti-VEGF, wait for 4 weeks for resolution. And if the VH is resolved, then I do a laser, and if it doesn't, then I directly go to do a PPV with an endolaser. So what does the evidence shows? What is the evidence talks about the prompt vitrectomy? So the Protocol AB has released this data in 2020, which says that in the patients in which they performed prompt vitrectomy, and then prompt vitrectomy was done even within 2 weeks from the date of enrollment or with the time the patient presented with the symptoms, they had a hostile visual recovery. And in fact, the patient, the other arm of the study, which received only aflibercept, required vitrectomy for TRD. So eventually the patient ended up having a PPV. So this, now what is the outcome? So the outcome of the study was that we can go for earlier vitrectomy in patients which are demanding for earlier visual rehabilitation, like young monocular patients, driver, craftsmen, and students. With microincision vitrectomy surgeries, sutureless vitrectomy, fine instrumentation, refined machines, PPV can be done earlier without much complications. So now we are going to talk about another sequelae, that is diabetic traction retinal detachment. TRD generally begins over and progresses over the arcades. So if there is a TRD which is not moving towards the fovea or is away from the fovea, observe. And if it is involving the fovea, we treat that TRD by doing FVP dissection, because fibrovascular proliferation is what is causing the tractional retinal detachment. The techniques for TRD are segmentation, delamination, which was initially done with curved forceps, scissors, picks and other instruments. But now the cutters, which are finer, which have lower ports, are good enough to do a complete vitrectomy. So what I prefer is, when there is a fovea threatening TRD, I give a pre-treatment with anti-VEGF for 3-4 days, do a PPV with endolaser. If there is an inadvertent break when I am dissecting the FVP, which might happen with even the most seasoned hand, I give a tamponade. Otherwise, I don't prefer giving tamponade to the patient. And metabolic control, of course, is very important. So how do we tackle combined retinal detachment, which is tractional and rhegmatogenous? So Yaoshi et al. Has suggested that, though it looks very aggressive, but then the outcomes are really good. So you treat them with PPV, you give a tamponade, and they really do well. Although meticulous fibrovascular dissection, meticulous FVP dissection is important in these kind of cases. And if a patient has poor preoperative visual acuity, he is less likely to have a postoperative good outcome. So how do we treat a patient with diabetic retinopathy with premacular hemorrhage? Again, we give a pre-treatment with anti-VEGF 3 days prior. We do a PPV with endolaser. There is also a way to deal with this pre-macular bleed is doing a Nd:YAG laser halodotomy. But then, why do we do a PPV in this patient? Because once we do a PPV, it's going to remove the inflammatory mediator from the vitreous. At the same time, it's going to remove the scaffold for the growth of these new vessels, and it takes care of the future complications. So in PRECISE, I would like to say that the prevention is the cure. Strict control over the metabolic derangement is very important. Laser combined with anti-VEGF has a better outcome. Vitrectomy is considered to remove the scaffold for the removal of the inflammatory and angiogenic mediators, thereby improving the overall outcome. Newer high-speed vitrectomy machine, finer instrumentation, early vitrectomy in dense vitreous hemorrhage is the way out. And using MIOCT, microscope integrated OCT and 3D visualization system, which can improve both surgical outcome and reduce phototoxicity. Thank you.